Wait, do you know how to write the systematic names of compounds? Wait, let me show you how to do it. Okay, so systematic names of compound is where we introduce the Roman numerals. So let's take the first one. So the first example is H₂SO₄. Now, when it's a binary compound like this is a binary compound. It contains only two different elements. First, you find the oxidation number of the first element. So the first element here is N. So let's find the oxidation number of the first element. So we are going to use a variable to represent the first element. So let's use S to represent the first element. So we can say X. But don't forget you have a subscript of 2 here, meaning it's multiplying the N here. So which means 2 will multiply the X here. Then plus oxygen. What is the charge of oxygen? So the charge of oxygen is -2. Then you bring it here plus -2. You equate it to 0. Now let's solve for the oxidation number for nitrogen. So it gives us 2x, and then here will be -2 to be equal to 0. 2x will be equal to 0 plus 2, and then 2x will be equal to 2. So we divide both sides by 2, and we get s to be equal to 1. So Roman numerals 1 is I. So 1 is I. So now let's name the compound here. Let's write the systematic name. So the first element is nitrogen. So you write nitrogen. Then what was the oxidation number? 1, which is I. Then you write I. And then oxygen here, we are going to replace the last 2 or the last 2 letters with IDE. So this will be oxide. So nitrogen I oxide. So the systematic name of this compound is nitrogen I oxide. So let's continue. So the second one, II. That is CO2. And then we know that CO2 is carbon dioxide. That is the old name. What about the systematic name? Let's write the systematic name. So first, let's find the oxidation number of the first element, carbon. So let's use S to represent carbon here. You can say X plus, what is the charge of oxygen? The charge of oxygen is -2. But 2 here is multiplying the oxygen. So this will be 2 multiplying the charge, -2. Then you equate it to 0. Now let's solve it. X, and then 2 times minus will give us -4 to be equal to 0. Therefore, S will be equal to +4. So what is the Roman numeral for 4? So the Roman numeral for 4 is IV. So IV. So let's name the compound. So the first element is carbon. Then you write carbon. What was the oxidation state of carbon? That is 4, IV. So you write IV. And then the last element is oxygen. So we are going to replace it with oxide. So carbon IV oxide. So carbon dioxide, the systematic name is carbon IV oxide. Let's continue. So the third one. So the third one is an acid. Yes, the third one is an acid. Any element that begins with H or hydrogen is an acid. Because we know that an acid is a substance that releases excess hydrogen ions when dissolved in water. So once it is starting with H, meaning it's an acid. So let's find the oxidation number. So with this one, when it is not a binary compound, like this is not a binary compound, you find the oxidation number of the middle element. So the middle element here is X, that is sulfur. So let's find the oxidation number of sulfur. So this is H₂SO₄. Therefore, we are going to use S to represent sulfur. That is what we are going to solve for the oxidation number. So this is going to give us, so hydrogen, the charge is +1. And then we have 2 here, meaning to multiply the +1. So this will be 2 multiplying the +1 plus sulfur. We are going to represent it with S because it's the middle element. And then plus oxygen. The charge of oxygen is -2. 4 is here, so we are going to get 4 times -2. Then we equate it to 0. Now let's solve it. So 2 times 1 is 2 plus X. And then 4 times -2 is -8 to be equal to 0. Then we are going to get 2 minus 8, that is going to give us minus 6 plus x to be equal to 0. Now let's continue. So we can say x will be equal to 0. This one will correct sign to become plus 6. Therefore, x equals positive 6. So the oxidation number of sulfur in sulfuric acid, that is the old name, is positive 6. So in Roman numerals, 6 is what? 6 is vein. So 6 is vein. So let's write it. Let's name it. So when naming an acid, you start from here where the 4 is. So you start from here, then you go to this side. So the 4 here is tetra. When you get 1, 1 is mono. When you get 2, 2 is di. When you get 3, it is tri. And then when you get 4, it is tetra. So since we have 4 here, we can say tetra. And then we have oxygen here, so the oxygen will be ozo. So tetra-ozo. We have sulfur here, so we are going to get tetra-ozo, so the sulfur will be sulfate. Tetra-ozo sulfate. Tetra-ozo sulfate, and then we have an acid here. But the oxidation state is 6, that is vein. That will be tetra-ozo sulfate, vein, then acid. So the systematic name of sulfuric acid is tetra-ozo sulfate, vein acid. So the last one, IV, that is calcium carbonate. So the old name is calcium carbonate. What about the systematic name? So let's find the oxidation number of the middle element. So we are going to say carbon, the charge is plus 2. So we are going to get 2 plus carbon, we are going to place it with x, plus oxygen. So we have 3 here, we'll multiply the charge, is negative 2, we equate it to 0. Then let's solve it. So we can get 2 plus x. Then 3 times minus 2 give us minus 6 to be equal to 0. Then 2 minus 6 is minus 4 plus x to be equal to 0. Therefore, x will be equal to 0 plus 4. So x will be equal to positive 4. So in Roman numeral, 4 is IV. So let's name this compound. So with this one, since it is not an acid, we are going to start the naming from the front. So we are going to say, so the first element is calcium. So we are going to say calcium. Then we come and check here. The number here is 3. I told you 3 is tri. So calcium, tri, and then we have oxygen here. So tri-ozo. And then we have C here, that is carbonate, tri-ozo carbonate. And then what was the oxidation number? IV. So carbonate IV. So calcium carbonate, the systematic name is calcium tri-ozo carbonate IV. If you found this wonderful, like, comment, and share for your friends. Thank you.